What's up, guys? How y'all doing today? This is Knowledge by Nikki with 1K, and this is my segment, Knowledge by Nikki at 9. And I want to have a conversation with you all today about something that I found interesting. Let me explain how this became something that I wanted to investigate. I actually started this financial game, and it was kind of organically started. I didn't even have a name for the game, and what I would do is I would get these cups. So I'm at this hotel and I'm trying to teach people about their finances, and I get these cups and I stroll these cups out. And what I would do with these cups is I'd put tags on them of every single bill that a person could possibly pay, all the way down to apps on your phone to whatever. So as I would do this, I would ask them how much money did they make a year, and they would tell me, let's say roughly $100,000. And I was teaching people how to create a budget, or really showing them when they fall short where the shortfall is coming from. So almost kind of like a robbing Peter to pay Paul type of game. So what I would do is they would tell me, say they made $100,000. I would issue them. I had fake money made, and the money would represent $100,000. So now with these cups, I would show them what I want you to do. We're going to do this on a yearly basis. I want you to tell me like how much was your rent, your mortgage, your whatever these bills or expenses they had to incur. What were they? They would actually take the money per year is what we were looking at. They would take the money out and they would actually put the money in the cup that symbolized how much they were paying. So let's say, for instance, it was their mortgage, and their mortgage was, say, $2,900 a year. $2,900 a year equals equivalent to probably about a little under $36,000 a year. So maybe about $38,000 in a year. Not 38,000. But they made 100. So I would make them take $38,000 out of that cup, or out of their money, put it in that cup, and this is how the game would go. Now, this is where it gets interesting. What made me investigate why blacks don't have insurance is I have not to date had one person. I've played this game hundreds of times. I have not had one person to date be able to take the money that they actually make and fill up all their cups with the money they make. They've always fallen short. I'm talking 6 cups. It could be 30 cups in front of them. This represents all the bills, all the expenses that they incur. Yet the money that they have, this $100,000, is consumed in 20 cups. So the last 10 cups, where's the money coming from? So what would happen is, and this is what made me go into the insurance thing, I've done this game with different nationality groups. Caucasians, blacks, Hispanic, you name it. I've done it with all these different groups. I would tell them the way this works is if you have 20 cups that have consumed your $100,000, but you have 10 cups that don't have any money in them, yet these are expenses that you're paying, where is the money coming from? And this is what made me know that this was a problem. I would tell them you have to pull money from somewhere to put into these cups. That's the robbing Peter to pay Paul type of thing. I noticed that my Caucasian groups, my Hispanic groups, and my black groups would always choose to pull money from different areas. So guess what I noticed? No matter where I was, no matter what group I was in, what city, blacks, when it came down to it and they had to figure out how to stretch this money and fill out some of these other cups, insurance was one of the first cups that they would pull from. And I thought it was interesting. And now I'm watching some of the other nationalities that I would do this with. Insurance was never a cup that they would even consider pulling from. Blacks would pull from insurance first and say, okay, we'll get lesser insurance, or we just forego insurance altogether. I would get Hispanics that would pull from housing, believe it or not. They would pull from housing, and they would say, well, we could all maybe stay together, so we can consolidate on housing and do it like that. And Caucasians, the first thing they would pull from was their cars. So as I did this game forever, I think I may, if I have time, I may play the game with you all, my video audience, tomorrow. As I played this game, I started realizing that it wasn't just one group of black people. Every group that I had, if they had to really make money stretch, they would always pull from insurance. So I started going on this journey of trying to understand, outside of so many people that I have encountered, that when somebody dies, they pass in the hat. They got a GoFundMe. They got some kind of way where we trying to collect money to bury these people. And I just didn't understand. A term life policy is like $20 a month for like $10,000 for no money, even if it's just enough money to bury you. So I'm saying this to my self-employed people because we have to do things differently, okay? So there's no job. You have some jobs now. If you're a W-2 person, they'll actually have it where insurance will be included in some of your benefits. Well, they'll pull for you or they'll provide life insurance for you. I'm just talking about life insurance today. So let me read to you some of what I discovered. Now, this is going to be interesting because I didn't know how to consolidate this. So I said, I'm just going to read you what I got. This is coming from, where did I get this source from? NerdWallet, and it's just about African-American life insurance. This is just one of the articles they posted concerning life insurance, and this is how it reads. It says, what is the life insurance coverage gap? Black Americans typically have 1/3 of the coverage of their white counterparts, even if they have insurance at all. Both groups had less than the recommended coverage as outlined in a study of 5 to 10 times annual income. But black respondents reported having life insurance only equal to about 1 year's income, if they have it at all, while white counterparts have insurance that's equivalent to about 3 years' income. Then it goes into having the right amount of life insurance can help beneficiaries cover costs like living expenses, debts. I will tell you, I've learned from several of my clients who are now older and have, unfortunately, husbands dying or people that are close to them dying. You are not necessarily free. I don't know if you all know this. You're not necessarily free of all of your spouse's debts when they die. Okay, so think about that. So this is going into being able to cover debts, expenses, and given the COVID-19 pandemic, this really feels more necessary than anything that we've ever done. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to skip around a little bit because I don't have to read this whole thing, but I didn't know what to piece out because all of it has good information. Historically, life insurance was sold to African Americans just as burial insurance, nothing else. Think about it. Back in slavery, we didn't have any assets. We didn't have anything to make sure that it got paid for. We didn't have any debts. So once we got out of slavery, basically insurance, which I'm going to talk to you about, was one of the main businesses that started building the economic engine. So almost black Americans that didn't even have insurance, they were just thinking about burial costs. Just enough to bury. They offered them smaller, cheaper policies that covered the bare minimum. And now even that has grown. So I'm going to go on some more. After the Civil War, insurers began classifying black people who were former slaves as having a higher mortality risk, meaning they were charged more or denied coverage altogether. These practices stretched all the way into the 1900s, 1960s and beyond, with separate sets of rates for blacks and white applicants. This also has been studied is because of the way black people eat. It's because of the way we have grown for years to eat different types of foods using different types of ingredients. It has already been kind of considered in the insurance industry that the foods and things that we eat will shorten our life expectancy. So these are some of the things that are taken into consideration when we're charged for insurance. So for a long time, I'm skipping around, black people were excluded from the conversation of protecting their assets at all because they didn't have any to protect. This was something that Malcolm Etheridge said, vice president and financial advisor with CIC Wealth. Insurance company would also find creative ways to not pay claims at all, Etheridge adds. So this became the level of mistrust between the black community and the insurance world. Years of discriminative policies also reduced access to medical care, housing, and education for so many blacks. And all these things factor into whether blacks have life insurance at all or if they have the best type of coverage they need. An applicant with a high school diploma and living in a poor neighborhood applies for the same $2 million policy as someone with a PhD living in an affluent neighborhood. The less educated applicant may get approved for coverage, but they will likely pay more, sometimes double for it. If the premiums are too expensive, coverage becomes inaccessible. Wealth may be harder to pass down, and the situation compounds. So some blacks are opting, it costs too much, I'm not doing it, period. And so these are some of the behaviors that have been passed down for generations that are literally, I believe, hindering some blacks' ability or desire even to have insurance at all. Why is the gap the problem? The legacy of separation, redlining, and discriminatory policies has made accumulating generational wealth a challenge for many black communities. Let me skip around here and go to something else. The approach poses a problem when a person dies and is uninsured. In this case, assets that have been passed down are often liquidated to pay for expenses and less wealth is passed. This is where the domino effect comes in, and you have people that are dying all the time, especially with the pandemic, and now there is nothing indicating, if there's any insurance at all, it is less than adequate to cover the needed expenses, and God forbid, leave your loved ones something that they just can live off of even after things are covered. Many of the causes, getting the right amount of coverage, this is what I'm going to go into now. Many of the causes are the result of bigger historical and social issues, making it hard for policyholders to close the gap themselves. And being underinsured isn't always easy to recognize. If you're not sure whether you have enough coverage, contact a financial advisor, insurance agent, and they can help you. Okay, that's one thing. This is what I also wanted to talk about. Black-owned businesses. I don't know if you all recognize this. Black-owned businesses are also known as African-American businesses, originated in the days of slavery. We have always been creative people doing all kinds of stuff, basically because we were just naturally gifted and talented. But this is where it gets a little interesting. Originated in the days before 1865, the Emancipation and Civil Rights permitted black businessmen to operate inside the American legal structure starting in the Reconstruction era, which is 1863 to 77. And afterwards, by the 1890s, thousands of small business operations had opened in urban areas. Segregation, the most rapid growth came in the 20th century, the century we live in now. As the increasingly rigid Jim Crow system of segregation moved urban blacks into communities large enough to support black business establishment, the National Negro Business League, which Booker T. Washington, college president, promoted, opened over 600 chapters. Okay, I'm going to skip down. African Americans, we operated basically every kind of business. Okay, but this was some of the most prominent black-owned businesses. And guess what, guys? Insurance was one of the #1 businesses that black people became entrepreneur in, so that they can help their peers be supported not only in death, but started the conversation of generational wealth. So it also said outside of insurance companies, banks, record labels, funeral parlors, barbershops, beauty salons, restaurants, soul food, and bookstores. Now, let me tell you what's interesting to me. Insurance was at one time denied to us. And it was, even if we got it, we were marginalized and had to pay more for it. Now we're at the point that we just don't buy insurance at all. So not only as entrepreneurs are we establishing and putting all of our energy into these businesses that we put every dime we have in, but if we die tomorrow, our businesses, our homes, our everything that we have, the debts that businesses leave, that, and some of you all who are not set up right, where you're not incorporated in any kind of way, where your business is attached to you personally, now not only have you left your business in disarray, but you've left your family and whoever takes care of you to deal with business debts because they're tied to you personally, because you didn't do an S Corp or a C Corp or some type of corporation that separates your identity. You also have your personal debts that I have learned. I did not know this, guys, until I talked to several people that are older, that have lost husbands, that are left paying all of this stuff. I got a client who lost her husband recently of 43 years. She is still paying for his red light tickets because the car is registered to both of their names. And she is an accountant who has her own business, who did not do the necessary things in order to have this taken care of. These are the things that life insurance. Now, I can talk to you about a lot of different kind of insurance, but I'm just talking about life insurance today. Now, I'm not saying this is the only way to invest and to have money for when somebody dies. I'm just dealing with the fact that when I saw myself playing this game with people, and I saw that every single black person that I have ever played this game with, that I have, which will actually be a board game you can buy soon, they would, when it came down to it and it was a stretch and they had to figure out how to make this $100,000 work, somewhere along the line, they were very comfortable with taking money out of the insurance cup to put over here to pay for something else. And I wondered, why is this something that I see only people that look like me doing? So as I started researching, I started to understand that this is because we have a different idea now. The thing that helped us build businesses back when it was beyond the Jim Crow era, where we were kind of all put over in this particular section and segregated, and we couldn't sell insurance or do business with anybody else. We had to do it with each other, and we were selling each other life insurance policies and whatever type of policies we had. And now we have none. As an entrepreneur of all my adult life, so as 35 years or more entrepreneur, I cannot express to you how important it is to understand that you need to not only insure yourself so we don't have to pass the hat, so we don't have to have a GoFundMe, but you need to think about all of these bills and debts that you've accumulated that when you die, you now leave people stuck with. They are stuck. Those things don't all go away. And I also found out it's a state-by-state thing. Certain states, you're going to be obligated for more than you could even imagine, even with a death certificate. So these are things I want every entrepreneur, every self-employed person listening to me to think about. If I die tomorrow, are the people I leave behind, my spouse, my children, my mother, my whoever, are they going to be protected? Are they going to have to stretch, come out of their pockets, do whatever, beg, borrow, steal, GoFundMe, all this other stuff to take care of what I accumulated, what I did, how to put me away? It is not fair. So I am here to tell you, I understand that there may be a situation where you're marginalized even today. So don't get a quote just from one insurance company. Get a quote from many insurance companies to see what quote fits best for you. You need to look at, you need to have right now, I am worth way more dead than I am alive. My insurance that I have right now, the amount of coverage as well as investments and other things that I have that would take care of me if I died tomorrow, will not only cover everything, every debt that I know in this state my loved ones will be stuck with, but it will also put at least $200,000 or more in their pockets once all these things are paid and the smoke is clear. I want you to live well beyond me. That is part of my whole generational wealth package, ideology of what I want to leave as a legacy. What I don't want to leave is a legacy of people having to scramble and scrap and be broke, and they're already grieving. Now they have to be financially stretched. So I want to talk to everybody black, but especially my entrepreneurs, my self-employed people who we have chosen to be racial capitalists, which if you go back to Monday's video, you'll see what that's about, and not live amongst racial capitalism. then we need to do differently. We need to have, if it's a very expensive term policy, I need you to sit down. I need you to look at everything you have. Look at every bill you got. Look at what you owe. Find out in your state, if you die tomorrow, would your loved ones have to pay your credit cards? Would they have to pay your car off? Would they have? And most times it's going to be yes. And if that happened, I want you to add all that up. And I want you to add at least $100,000 more to that. And I want you to come up with a life insurance amount. And it does, I'm not big on whole life. That's a whole nother conversation. But if it's just a term policy, if it's a term policy, then I want, if you don't have the money to do this, if you don't have investment sitting somewhere that could take care of this, then this is another, it's not the only way, but it's another way to make sure everyone that actually is left behind is left in a great situation, guys. Okay, I'm going to be talking more about this. I'm going to be talking more about just different things that we have to do differently as entrepreneurs and make sure that not only our legacies of our businesses continue, but that the people that are left behind are not left with all of this stuff to clean up and figure it out and grieve all at the same time. So I don't want to see no more GoFundMe's for insurance. If you just say, fine, if you just reside to the point, let me just get enough to bury me, you can get a measly $25,000 policy with several companies for like $20 a month. That is the cost of you going out to eat. That's the cost of, if you add it up and thought about all the bags that you buy and the shoes that you buy and the trips that you go on. I need us as entrepreneurs and self-employed to reprioritize what we think is important. Stop thinking only depreciable things are important. Now, I'm fine. I believe in living. I believe in having a life where you don't just work. And I just got there, guys. I was not always that way. I believe you should go on vacation. You should do this. You should do that. You should have other things that you do. But again, as I talked about in Monday, I believe it was, or Tuesday, I don't know what day. Go back and just watch my page and Knowledge by Nikki videos. And you can also go on Nikki Smith's page. I know for a fact that what hinders us from being able to do these things and to live it out and to leave a legacy is because we want to live spontaneously. That is something that most self-employed people do not have the luxury of just jumping up and spending $10,000 and not really seeing where is it coming from. Unless you have your financial setup where you got a mad account, meaning this is the account that I put money in and I could set it on fire if I want to do that. If you don't have an account that's set up for that, then you are typically taking money from something that you haven't considered. So I need us to do better, guys. Talk to your local insurance agent. Find out what would it cost for me to take care of my debts, to take care of a burial. Find out however you want to be put away. You need to find out what that's going to cost for you to be put away. You can actually prepay for a lot of this stuff, guys. Or you need to have some investments, some IRAs, some CDs, some things set up if you want to get into real estate. I don't care where you put your money. But what I'm saying is you're going to have some money somewhere. And so we can stop leaving these people that we say we love holding the bag once we leave here. Okay? And that's all I'm going to say to you today. So tune in tomorrow. I'm not sure. I got a lot of subjects in front of me and my head is like wanting to talk about a lot of things. So tune in tomorrow. Knowledge by Nikki at 9. We're going to talk about the Black experience and the Black entrepreneur. And this is my journey now. It was just salon owners and barbershops and spas. But God has saw fit for me to cast my net wider and allowed me to have a lot of other people that are in different industries that I now help and I coach and I, restructure their businesses for them. So I am just really passionate about people that have chosen to be self-employed, but we got to do this thing different, y'all. Okay? So tune in tomorrow. Knowledge by Nikki at 9.